Devin, while I have you, who championed the initiative at Sutro? Who championed the initiative, and who had to be won over? Who did you have to convince? Who had to be convinced to take these steps, spend the money?
So I was brought in to put the manufacturing plan together. So it started with me, but it was a collaborative effort from the operations team. So basically, we had folks from engineering, MSAT, facilities, to make sure and process development to make sure we understand exactly, what the challenges are. And so it was a collaborative effort, but I was the one basically had to go in front of the CEO, who came from sort of the R&D development mindset, and my own direct boss also, who sort of understood to some aspect of operation, and then basically guide them why this is important, critical. There was some hesitancy, there was some basically pushback to say, why do we really need to do this? And when you actually walk them through some of the current challenges and what the issues were and how we can overcome those challenges with the implementation of some of this process automation and show them the proof of that, I think basically won them over. So it was mainly the senior leadership team over here that had to be convinced.
Just as a quick follow-up to that, you mentioned that there was some hesitancy. Can you put your finger on where that hesitancy was rooted? Perhaps it was like, what was it? Was it cost? Was it disruption? Was it tech integration challenges? Where did the hesitancy come from?
Well, it's the early days of Sutro. The cost was a big deal. The spending money, that amount was a big deal. So that's number one. And number two, again, not really having a true understanding of what it takes to do GMP manufacturing consistently. That's a combination of those two was sort of the main hesitancies. And once we educated folks why this is important, I remember my first 2 months, and I requested something that cost over $1 million. And I got a direct email from my CEO saying, "Are you sure you want this thing for sure?" And I said, "Yes, I do." So it was one of those things I had to sign off, not my boss, but I did have to sign off, make sure this is going to go. This is going to be okay to do. So it was,
Randy, how about at iBio? Who was the champion of the project at iBio, and who had to be won over to move forward?
Well, I think with any emerging biotech, right, you have to be smart in how you invest your money, because you're burning money and you're generally not making it, correct? So, I think it really falls into making a business case under the premise that every dollar you put into automation, which obviously has some near-term as well as long-term benefits, that's $1 that you're not putting into your programs or into your clinical trials, right? So you do the business case. You've got to convince the leadership team first, of which I'm a member, right, to align around that, and then of course anything of the nature where you're talking, $1 million or more, that would generally go to your board, and so you got to get the board aligned as well.
Awesome. Let's take a couple audience questions. We've got some good ones coming in here. Let's take it from the top here, Angel. What would be and I'm gonna throw these out here and invite Randy, Devin, and Paul to just jump on them as they see fit. If there's a squabble over one of the questions, I'll be sure to break it up and choose one of you. Let's take it from the top. What would be the qualification for a bioprocess automation professional? I feel a bioprocess engineer, right? That's coming from Symmetry. So thoughts on that? What qualifies as a bioprocess automation professional?
Wow. Well, I think, again, not to sound like a politician, but I don't think there's one size fits all. Everyone, obviously you would want to have a technical background to understand the basic process that you're trying to automate and ensure those processes are optimized prior to automating. Otherwise, you just do a bad thing faster, which is never a good thing. But, basic background in the area and experience, whether they come out of manufacturing, I see people come out of the R&D labs, so that would be sort of my view. I think it's harder to define it, but you know it when you see it, sort of thing, would be my view.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Anyone else want to jump on that?
Yeah, and I think sorry.
Devin, please go ahead.
Yeah. I think the classic, you can say, I would love to have a chemie be my sort of the classic bioprocess engineer or that function. But I mean, I've seen most of the folks that we have in MSAT have experience in manufacturing. So they've seen there, been there, done that. They truly understand sort of and all the different details of manufacturing. But having a chemistry degree also doesn't hurt either. And having some understanding of automation doesn't hurt either. But so it's a common, it's not like Randy said, not a one size fits all. If you have, I think the biggest asset that someone could bring in is sort of some operations experience.
That makes sense. Paul, did you want to jump in on that?
The only thing I was going to add was I think in this labor market, to just expect that you're going to get somebody off the street with years and decades of experience in X, Y, or Z is probably not the best path. So I think it's important for us, from a company's perspective as leaders, to really investigate that question. Because it'd be perfect if we had, a bioprocess background with, manufacturing experience in multiple different, companies, so on and so forth. But the reality of the situation is we're probably not going to start with, the perfect, labor force from a process leadership perspective. And I think we need to really hunt down what are the critical, must-have criteria, and then go fill from there, and fill training, experience, and supplementation from the outside. So I think that's a very insightful question, right? And this is sort of the connection with the current events and news of the day with our industry and our businesses. And I don't think I agree. There's not a one size fits all. We can make the proper profile, but then we better start filling in from a training and development perspective how we want to grow those people internally.